Des députés européens et des parlementaires de 79 pays d'Afrique, de Caraïbes et du Pacifique réunis dans l'hémicycle strasbourgeois. La 28e Assemblée parlementaire paritaire ACP-UE a débuté ce 1er décembre. Son coprésident, le Jamaïcain Fitz Jackson, a pris le temps de répondre aux questions d'EuroparlTV.
So, Mr. Jackson, thank you for joining us for this interview.
It's my pleasure.
First question, what is the ACP-EU Joint Assembly?
Well, the ACP, Africa, Caribbean and Pacific group of countries on the one hand, and the European Union on the other hand, through an initial convention agreement that was signed in 1975 called the Lomé Convention. It sets out an arrangement of trade and development facilitation between both groups, where it provides for developmental support by way of trade and other developmental support to ACP countries, who were essentially former colonies of Europe and whose economies were, during the period of being colonized, were really skewed to supplying raw material to the European countries rather than skewed towards their own national development. So the post-Lomé period agreement is an effort to readjust, so to speak, the development agenda of these ACP countries towards their own national goals.
And why the relationship between ACP and EU is so important, and how is it important for these countries and for Europe as well?
The mutual benefit is that ACP countries need markets to supply their goods and their services. European countries need these raw materials for their industries and their own life. So there is a mutual benefit to be served. The problem has always been how to balance both interests so that one is not at the disadvantage of the other. And so the negotiations and the discussions is a continuous process of trying to ensure there is some equilibrium, there is some balance between how those benefits are disposed or generated.
But is it only about economical topics?
No. We go beyond that. The ACP is not just, countries are not just economies, and the EU countries are not just markets. They are people on both sides. And so out of the relationship, it is the intention and the hope that we will create a better human international family. So there are social development issues, cultural development issues. And culture doesn't mean the replacement of one, but the sharing of cultures, the sharing of experiences, so that our own selves will be enriched and will be enlightened from those sharing experiences.
But what does this partnership bring? I mean, we could say that in this period of problem with Ebola, for example, or terrorism, how can it help on this topic as well?
Europe has a lot of investment in Africa. It needs to interface with Africa. The threat of Ebola is not only to the African people, it is a threat for the European people who have to interface with these African countries. It undermines the capacity of these African economies to produce the services and the goods that Europe also desires. So there's a mutual interest to be served, and Europe has an interest, a self-interest, in assisting and doing all that it can to curtail that situation. In much the same way that ACP countries have an interest in good health conditions in Europe that we have to interface with. I'm here.
Coming back on economical topics, this year it's 4% growth in Africa. Is it a good news for the future? How could it be more developed through this partnership?
Again, and I raised it in my presentation, the question of financing being available for peoples of Africa to get involved with business. We all accept that it will not be state-driven economic development, but it will be private sector development. What sort of synergy there can be between European private interests and African or ACP private interests? Where they produce more, they produce quality product, more reliable supply to meet the demands of the European markets.
So last question, what are the challenges for the future of this cooperation between ACP and EU?
Market access of ACP countries, financing terms, availability of technologies, which the European countries are leaders in. How can they be brought to bear in these economies to enhance their whole economic growth and the quality of life? So those are just a few of the areas that we have identified for immediate cooperation.
Great, thank you very much.
Pleasure is mine. Wish you the best.
Thank you.